Hello, everybody, and welcome to Week 10 of the 2025 NFL season. This week, the Vikings play host to the Ravens. I think I said last week that they were going to Baltimore, but that was incorrect. No intro video this week. I'm a bit crunched for time, but I still have some things I'd like to share with all of you. Starting with the beer this week, from Hinterland Brewing in the shadow of Lambeau Field, Saving Gracie gluten-free sour berry ale. It's a pretty cool can. Right down to the barcode. It's got like little trees there. That's neat. Developed in honor of our owner's gluten-free, beer-loving daughter, Gracie, our Saving Gracie series strives to offer a diverse lineup of alt malt beers. For our full gluten-free lineup, visit our website, hinterlandbeer.com. Brewed with real raspberries, blueberries, strawberries, and blackberries. Raspberries and blackberries. We're being very thorough here. Saving Gracie gluten-free sour berry ale, 4% alcohol by volume. It's good to taste. All right. Yet another garnet-toned beer, if we'll call it that. A little bit lighter than last week's, but overall still a really, really neat color. Skål, if you there. That's really interesting. It's when it said sour berry ale, I didn't know if that meant if it was a sour, but it's an ale, but it's got sour berries in it. So especially after last week when it was very much a sour, this is light. This is like maybe even lighter on the tongue than like a Miller Lite. Not by a lot, but the fruit sourness comes through. So it's like if someone made a light sour beer or a light beer with the typical fruits that you get in a sour. That's really interesting. Like if you like the flavor of a sour, like if a lot of the sours that at least that I have tend to be fruit sours. If you like that flavor, but it's just a little bit too heavy, this is much lighter on the tongue. Somewhere short of like a seltzer, like a White Claw or something. Way, way short. It's heavier than that, but it's somewhere in the middle. That's very interesting. It's a niche that I don't think I've tried before. Also with gluten-free beers, they tend to, I think, taste a little bit, you can tell that it's a gluten-free beer or that there's something odd with it. Usually it's got kind of something just a little different to it. This, I think the fruit covers it up in a way that I don't get that like something's missing here or something's different here vibe. So overall, a very interesting experience. Easy to sip. Okay, on to today's game. I think it's a really interesting one, which is why, despite not having the time to do the intro video and everything, I was still really excited to talk about it. The Vikings and the Ravens are kind of in similar boats coming into this week. Both been without our starting quarterback for weeks. Both quarterbacks came back last week. Both quarterbacks played okay to well last week. Both teams have an underwhelming record. The Vikings are at 4-4. The Ravens are at 3-5. I would say probably the biggest difference is the Ravens, at least as of last week, were still favored to win their division because their competition is so poor, whereas the Vikings play in the NFC North with the Packers and the Lions and even right now, at least, the Bears. I'm kind of bummed because to start the year, the Ravens defense was decimated and it showed. They were getting the score run up on them by opposing offenses. The Bills, the Lions, the Chiefs, and the Texans all put up, I think, more than 30 points, and it wasn't looking very good for them. And then Lamar went out, and their offense was sputtering, and now the Vikings get them. The Ravens' defense is getting healthier. Lamar is back and looking good, and now the Vikings have to face this juggernaut again. Now, the Ravens have also looked better the last couple of weeks, but they played the Bears, whose defense is kind of a shambles, and they played the Dolphins, who that whole team woebegone. So it's hard to get a read on what the Ravens really are right now with their strength returning, but also playing some soft competition. The Vikings, man, 2 weeks ago, after they got shellacked by the Chargers, I would have said this team is toast. We just need to kind of run the year out. We need to figure out what J.J. McCarthy is. What's the point? Probably not in that dire of a tone, but, it wasn't looking good. And then they showed up against the Lions in a way that I didn't see happening this year. And not to say that, okay, well, now the scales have fallen from my eyes and I've seen the light and J.J. McCarthy is the way, the truth, and the life. But the defense, if they can keep at least some semblance of a spine against the running game. They still got hammered pretty hard in the passing game. But if you can control one phase of the game and get lucky with some turnovers in some other ways, and if your offense can move the ball, J.J. McCarthy still hasn't broken 200 passing yards, so I'm not buying into all the hype that he's here, he's the chosen one. But if they can look competent on offense, if they can look like they have a startable roster on defense, you could make a good run out of this year. It's hard to say exactly what this team is right now because, we point to the games that, the Vikings won, and they beat the Bears, which was a good game. They lost to the Falcons, who themselves have been up and down. They got shut out by the Panthers, but then beat the Bills, so who knows what they are. They beat the Bengals, and they shellacked the Bengals, and it was awesome, but now, everybody's shellacking the Bengals, so it wasn't that special. You lost to a Pittsburgh team that leads their division and has, upset one of the best teams in football, the Colts. You beat the Browns, who have proven to be a stout defense, but really don't have much going on offense. So, who are the Vikings? There are, in a year where there's not really many great teams in the NFL, there's not an undefeated team, there's not a lot of teams that are really, giving us a lot of confidence that they're a great team. Even the Colts, people have question marks, how long can they keep doing this with Daniel Jones at quarterback? It's hard to say, to rate quality wins for the Ravens or the Vikings. And both of them have been banged up. Both of them have had backup quarterbacks. It's a really interesting matchup, and I think it has a lot of bearing on the rest of the season. In theory this week, and I'm not predicting anything, I'm just saying all the NFC North teams play other teams, so there's no in-division games. If they all lost and the Vikings won, every team would be at 5 wins. The Packers, I think, would still hold the tiebreaker because they have a tie, but that's crazy, given that last year, at this point, I think the NFC North had only lost 3 games and they were to each other. So that's probably not correct. I just know last year they didn't lose many games, and this year, basically the entire division is at or near 500. So a Vikings win this week keeps them in the race, keeps them chasing a division title. I don't see this being the year the Vikings put it all together and make a playoff run. Kind of like what I said last week is I hope that they're a competitive enough team that we can see what we have in J.J. McCarthy. I don't want there to be a whole lot of but he was putting up 30 points, but the defense let him down, or the offensive line was letting the defense through and just hitting him repeatedly. I really hope they can put together a solid year here going forward. You get the Ravens at home. They're a great team. Again, they're favored to win their division. They've got Derrick Henry. They've got Zay Flowers. They've got 3 tight ends who I think could be a problem for the Vikings this week. Famously, the Vikings blitz a lot. Lamar is great against the blitz because he scrambles. He's slightly more elusive than the statuesque Jared Goff. And he's got lots of passing options that I think are harder to plan for. Tight ends, when you use them creatively, they can, block for a second and then leak out underneath. And if you've got people blitzing, there's gaps to be found in the defense. So I know nothing about scheming an NFL defense. I just hope that Flores has something creative planned to not make it super easy for Lamar to dice this defense apart. Also, subtly, I think I've mentioned it in a couple of videos, the Vikings have been really good at getting close to tackling the quarterback and then just not doing it. Jonathan Grenard, there's this whole kind of thing online about how he's leading the league in almost sacks. And Lamar, love watching him play against other teams because it's amazing. He looks like he's dead to rights. They've got 3 defenders on him, and he pirouettes and then runs for 40 yards. So it could be a very tilting day if you're hoping for sacks from the Vikings. We'll see. All right. Hope you appreciated this somewhat abbreviated version of the Viking video. Thank you for watching. Try not to blow away in the absolutely howling wind out there. Skål for there. And go Vikings.